Welcome to Gear Freak. Hey, thanks for checking out this edition of Gear Freak, our trail camera review. It's getting to be that time of year, scouting season. Everybody wants to go out in the woods, see what's wandering around, see what they're going to be chasing this fall during hunting season. I stop at Cabela's a lot and see people standing there looking at all the trail camera options. So we decided to do a trail camera review. The question that everybody has, if you pay $400 to $500 for a trail camera, is it going to work that much better than a camera that costs $170 or $200? Are you going to get more pictures? Are you going to get clearer pictures? There are new cameras out every year and there's a multitude of them. And so there's no way we could possibly test all of them. But we did get a lot of cameras and we got some of the most highly recognizable ones as well. We got cameras from Moultrie, Wild Game Innovations, Tasco, Bushnell, Spy Point, Primos, Reconyx, and the heavily touted, heavily advertised Cuddeback. We're testing one model from every manufacturer, and we do have two manufacturers we purchased two models from. The thought behind this is there's so many models out there from a manufacturer that if they make a quality camera on one model, the rest of them should be quality cameras as well. So we decided to test that theory on two of the manufacturers, Wild Game Innovations and Moultrie. We got two different models from the same manufacturer. We tested 4 cameras at a time. We put all the sensors at the same height, just over 4 feet off the ground, which is recommended by the manufacturers. We did our tests in the early morning to simulate when animal activity is at its highest. This provided lower light conditions and lower temperatures. All the cameras we tested had an IR flash, or an infrared flash. The infrared flash, when it's set off, has a very low red glow to it. Some of them had a black LED flash, which then you don't see any flash whatsoever. I found that the regular camera flash typically spooks animals. So if you're taking a multiple picture scenario, you get the first picture of the animal, the second picture will be dirt flying up in the air, and that's all you'll get. With the infrared flashes, the animals will just stare at the camera. The low, warm red glow doesn't seem to bother them all, and they'll just continue to stare at the camera through multiple pictures. We tested the cameras at 10 feet, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, and 100 feet. At each range, we first walked by the camera from right to left, then left to right, and then we ran by the camera from both directions as well. We were looking at testing the overall performance and use of the camera, but we were specifically looking at testing several factors. That being trigger speed, or how fast the camera recognized something was in front of it and then was able to take a picture of it. Trigger distance, what was the maximum range you could walk by that camera and still have it take a picture. Clarity of the pictures. Infrared flash distance and night pictures. Video options. Multi-photo performance and settings. Overall features like setup and ease of use. Plot watcher modes. And delay between pictures. Size and weight of the unit. Security available on the unit or that you can additionally purchase. And our cost versus performance evaluations. We rated trigger speed based on quick trigger speed is going to capture the subject in the frame at closer distances. At 10 feet, the camera has less time to actually realize that there's movement and then take a picture while the subject is still in frame. Where at 40 feet, the subject's in motion sensing range and in frame for a much longer time than it is at 10 feet. We also gave the camera a rating based on a total number of pictures taken. If the camera caught us walking by at 10 feet in both directions, it got credit for catching us walking at 10 feet. If it caught us running by in both directions at 10 feet, it got credit for catching us running at 10 feet. If the camera partially caught us, meaning we were half in frame, half out, we didn't give it credit. Or if it only caught us moving one way and not the other way, we didn't give it credit for that distance as well. We walked and ran by the camera from 10 to 60 feet, then just walked by the camera from both directions at 80 feet and 100 feet. So basically the camera could get credit for catching us walking by or running by a total of 14 times. We just used the old elementary school system of scoring. 90 to 100%, you got an A or an awesome. 80 to 89% got a great. 70 to 79% got an average. 60 to 69% got a poor. And then anything below 59% got a failing or horrible grade. It's pretty subjective on each camera on how easy it is to set up. Several of us used them, set them up, tried different features with them. That's kind of how we determined how we felt about them and how easy we thought they were to set up. Clarity was simply measured by the clarity of the pictures. If it looked good, it wasn't blurry, there was no fogginess. We tested 11 cameras ranging anywhere from $110 up to $450. So the average camera price of the 11 cameras we tested was $196. If you take Reconyx out of the equation, because it's so far up there, it's $450, and the next closest one is the Cuddeback at $265. The average camera price tested was $170. Basically, this is telling you that if you're going to go out and purchase a camera, you should expect to spend anywhere from $170 to $200 on a new trail camera. This also gives us a way to evaluate the camera on a price versus performance evaluation. So there are a ton of variables when looking at cameras. How are you going to use it? How many megapixels is the camera? What SD card should you use? What's the quality of the camera? The first one we want to talk about is how you're going to use this camera. What we mean is if you're going to put this on a scrape or a feeder or somewhere where the animals are just going to be hanging out in front of the camera for a long period of time, any of these cameras will pretty much work for you. Megapixels are another variable you need to consider. Megapixels are actually the colored dots that make up the picture. The higher the megapixels, the more colored dots, the more crisp and clean the photo is going to be, and especially when you zoom in. I like a camera with at least 6 megapixels on it. If you look at these two pictures, you can see one is from a 10 megapixel camera. The other one's from a 3 megapixel camera. You can see the detail lost in the picture, and even more so when you zoom in. Another variable is human error. You can eliminate a lot of this by reading the instructions. Don't set the camera up facing east or west if you can help avoid it. You might catch the rising or setting sun, and then this is going to cause bad pictures, and you'll never see what's walking by your camera. So now we've looked at the variables, the criteria, the way we tested the cameras, and what we're looking for. Let's get to the results. We're going to start off with the least expensive, the Tasco, and work our way up to the most expensive, the Reconyx. This Tasco unit we purchased for $110, and the trigger speed was actually not that bad. It missed all the pictures at 10 feet, and it did miss the 20-foot running pictures. Otherwise, it caught everything else out to 60 feet and pretty much center frame. Of the number of pictures it caught, it got a poor rating. It only caught 9 out of 14 pictures. It's a 5 megapixel camera, and the pictures were actually pretty good. There was sometimes a little blur on a moving subject. The total trigger distance was 60 feet. The photo delay is customized by minutes and seconds. The night flash worked good after 40 feet. Details started to get a little fuzzy around 60 feet, and 80 feet there were no details. You can choose between 2 or 3 multi-photos. It does not have a plot watcher mode. There is no way to tell how much battery power you have remaining. This is by far the smallest unit we tested, coming in at just half a pound. It does provide time, date, and mood phase on every picture. For security, you have the side plastic, but nothing more than that. Due to the low cost of this camera at $110, the clarity of the pictures, and it reaching out to 60 feet, we actually gave this a 3.5 rating. The only issues on this camera are the lack of options like the plot watcher mode, to be able to tell how much battery's gone, and the trigger speed at 20 feet or closer on the camera. The next camera we're reviewing is the Wild Game Innovations X6C 6 megapixel camera we purchased for $120. The trigger speed on this one actually was not that good. It missed all the pictures at 10 feet, it missed the running pictures at 20 feet, and it barely caught us in the frame at running at 30 feet. The rest of the pictures were in the second half of the frame. It only caught 7 out of 14 pictures. It's a 50% ratio. One reason it only caught 7 out of 14 available photos is because 2 of the pictures came out bright pink. Not sure why, if it was a camera malfunction or what. But either way, it doesn't count. If you slap it out in the woods and you're getting pink pictures, it doesn't work. It had excellent clarity, no blurriness whatsoever. It did trigger out to 60 feet. The photo delay comes in 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or 10-minute delays. For the night flash, it worked good out to 40 feet. 60 feet, you were losing detail. 80 feet, you couldn't tell what was out there. A couple of drawbacks about this camera are there are no multiple photo options. You get one photo, that's it. In the video option, you can't set for a specific length of time. It's preset, 30 seconds, and that's all you get. Another major drawback is the strap system used on this camera. There's just a couple of little bungees holding this thing to the tree. They're not attached to the camera, they're very easy to lose. They're kind of a pain to put up. However, the setup on this camera is very easy. The little backlit LCD screen makes it really easy to set up. This is the only camera that gave us really poor battery life. After all the testing that we did with all of the cameras, this is the only one that gave us only about a 60 to 65% battery life left on it. This is also a very small, very lightweight camera, 1 pound, all ready to go. There's absolutely no security on this camera. There's not even a place where you can put a lock on it. On each picture you get the time, date, temperature, and picture number on every photo. We gave this camera a rating of 2 because of the low number of pictures it caught, the lack of customization, no multi-photo, no plot watcher modes. It's very limited and it didn't perform very well at all. Next camera we have up is the 8 megapixels 5-point Tiny. We purchased this camera for $145. The trigger speed on this was not great. It didn't catch any running photos until 40 feet. It did catch all walking photos and subjects were typically centered or in the beginning of the frame. It's a little weird because it's got these 3 sensors up front. The idea behind this is the side sensors are supposed to wake up the main sensor when it sees something coming by so that the trigger speed's faster. However, it didn't seem to help this camera out much at all. This camera actually caught an average number of pictures, 10 out of 14 or 71.4%. The fact that it caught pictures out to 80 feet really helped it out. Although it's an 8 megapixel camera, when it caught subjects on the move, pictures were actually a little blurry. The photo delay starts at 1 minute, which was something that we didn't like. We like being able to set it to 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or even lower. The night flash on this actually worked really good at 60 feet, but at 70 to 80 feet, it started to lose a lot of detail. It is cool that you can program this for a multi-photo from 1 to 6 photos. You can also set it up for 10, 30, 60, or 90-second videos. It does have a plot watcher mode, and the setup on this is really easy. The LCD screen on the back makes it really easy to customize this and go through it and get it all set up and ready to go out in the field. It has time, date, and temperature setting on each one. Another thing you might notice is SpyPoint has a variety of cameras, and the other one they have is a SpyPoint Tiny W, which is wireless, meaning that it'll have a little antenna on the side here, and it comes with a little black box. You can hide that black box up to 250 feet away from this camera, and then every picture that the camera takes will be automatically backed up to that black box. So as far as security, if somebody comes to steal your camera, as long as they don't take that black box or can't find it, you'll get a picture of the thief. The other thing is, if you don't want to enter your area that you're taking pictures of, you can put that black box up to 250 feet away and go get the pictures off the black box and not have to intrude on your hunting area to go check your camera photos. Another cool security feature about this is you've actually got a housing and you've got the camera. And you can run a cable through the housing and through the camera to attach it to the tree. So if somebody wants to steal this camera, they're going to have to actually saw through the camera, and they're not going to want to do that because they destroy the camera. We gave this camera a rating of 3 because of the lower price and the ease of setup. Didn't get a higher rating because we didn't like that the delay had to start at least at 1 minute, and we got blurry photos with it. The next camera up is the Moultrie M60 6 megapixel camera. This one ran us $150. The trigger speed on this was not great. It mostly missed us walking by at 10 feet, and then it missed the jogging by at 10 feet and 20 feet as well. It caught an average number of pictures, 10 out of 14 or 71%. As far as clarity goes, even though it's a 6 megapixel camera, every moving picture was blurry, and the color was kind of off. It was kind of funky for some reason. The trigger distance was about what we expected, 60 feet. You can set the photo delay for 5, 15, or 30 seconds, or 1, 5, 10, 30 or 60 minute delays. The night flash on this was starting to get a little fuzzy out at about 60 feet, and you could sort of tell there was something there at 80 feet. It does have a nice multi-photo function. The multi-photo function actually has 2 different speeds, normal and fast. Fast is going to be back-to-back photos very quickly. Normal will be a photo, maybe a 1 or 2 second lapse, and then a second photo. You can set it for 2 or 3 photos in multi-photo setting. One of the nicer things about these Moultries, they have a very advanced plot watcher feature. You can set the plot watcher up for 3, 4, or 24 hours, which means it'll take pictures for the first 3 hours of daylight and the last 3 hours of daylight, or the first 4 hours and the last 4 hours of daylight, or 24 hours a day. It also has a hybrid mode to where it'll take plot watcher photos during the day and it'll take regular motion sensor detected photos at night. Ease of setup on this was a little difficult. You get used to it after a while, but it was a little confusing, and to be able to just take it right out of the box, hang it up on a tree and set it up, it's going to take you a couple of minutes. It comes in at 1 pound all ready to go. For security, it has a little plastic feature where you can put a lock through. Otherwise, you can buy an aftermarket box for it. It has time, date, moon, temperature, and the name of the camera on every photo. Because it missed the jogging at 10 and 20 feet, and the photo clarity was a little off, we gave this camera a 3.5 overall rating. The night vision was okay, but for $20 more, there's better cameras out on the market. The next camera on our list is this 8 megapixel Stealth Cam Sniper. We purchased it for $170, which is the average cost of all the cameras that we are testing. Trigger speed on this camera was actually pretty good. It caught all the walking pictures. It did miss the 10 and 20 foot jogging pictures, but it caught us in the middle of the frame or in the early part of the frame on most all the pictures. The camera caught an average number of pictures. It caught 10 of 14 pictures for 71%. The total trigger distance on this came down to 60 feet. The photo clarity of this 8 megapixel camera was not bad. A couple of the pictures were a little blurry, but overall still very clear. You can actually set the photo delay up and you can customize it by the seconds and the minutes. The night flash was good out to about 40 feet. You start lacking a lot of detail at 60 feet, and at 80 feet you'd be able to tell there's an animal there, but you wouldn't be able to tell if it had antlers or how many tines it had. Multi-photo is very customizable from 1 to 9 photos. In video, you can customize by the second from 5 seconds to 220 seconds. It does not have the plot watcher feature, and the setup on this is going to take you a little bit more time to get used to and kind of get accustomed to. And it came in weighing at only 1.4 pounds. Security, again, you have the little tab on the side to put your lock through, otherwise you're going to have to go ahead and buy a box. It has the time, date, temperature, and moon phase on every picture, and it's got the black LEDs on it, so when this actually takes a photo, you cannot see any flash or any red glow of this whatsoever. We gave this camera a rating of 3 because it has an average cost point. It caught an average number of pictures. The clarity was good for the most part, but the setup on this was not the easiest to do. Overall, it's an average camera, so it got an average rating of 3. The next camera up for review is this 10 megapixel Wild Game Innovations Pulse. $170 we purchased it for. This camera is actually one of the bigger cameras we tested. It runs off a D battery, so it's actually a little bit heavier than the rest of them too. The trigger speed on this was actually pretty good. It did miss the running at 10 feet, but it caught one picture running at 20 feet and a partial picture running the other way at 20 feet. For the number of pictures it caught, it did a great job. It caught 12 out of 14 pictures, or 85%. This was helped a lot because it took pictures out to 100 feet. Clarity was pretty good. A couple of them were a little blurry early on in the morning or moving. The max distance was 100 feet. However, in one of our earlier tests, it did catch us at 150 feet. So this camera actually did trigger out to 150 feet. So it's got a pretty good range. As far as night flash is concerned, you've actually got a kind of a weird feature on this one. You've got a regular flash up here, or you've got the option to do an IR flash. Again, we only tested the IR flash, and that worked really good out to 60 feet. 80 feet, you could tell it's a buck, but you're gonna start losing some details. Now we start getting into the negatives, and this seems to be a running issue with Wild Game Innovations. It's just the lack of customizability. It's got no multi-photo. It's got preset video links of 15 or 30 seconds. It has no plot watcher mode. And again, for the strap system, you have this little bungee cord doohickey that's not even attached to the camera. Very easy to lose. The ease of setup on this was actually really easy. It's got a nice little screen, easy to set up, easy to walk through. It's lighted, so it's easy to see. Size and weight on this thing, it is huge compared to the other ones we tested. It comes in at 3 pounds, fully loaded down. Security, again, there's absolutely nothing. There's not even a little plastic ring to lock it to. You're gonna have to buy additional boxes from Wild Game Innovations to secure this camera. It has time, date, temperature, moon phase, and picture count on every picture. If you see the top here, you actually have an option to put Wi-Fi on this camera. So you can set up Wi-Fi and then get close to the camera and download your pictures without actually going to the camera, which is a nice feature. Again, coming in at $170, which is our average cost of cameras that we tested. Because of the weight, because of the lack of customization, no multi-pictures, the horrible strap system, the size of it, we gave this camera a rating of 3. The next one we're taking a look at is a 7 megapixel Primos Truth Blackout camera. We purchased this camera for $180. Trigger speed on this camera was poor. It missed all the pictures at 10 feet. It barely caught me walking at 20 feet. It missed the running at 30 feet, caught one running at 40 feet, barely caught me running at 50 feet. There was not a lot of centering and mostly caught the subject in the second half of the frame. For the number of pictures it caught, it got a horrible. It was 8 out of 14 or 57%. As far as the clarity goes, it has a 7 megapixel camera and it was excellent clarity. There was no blurriness, nothing. Great quality and clarity of pictures. However, that doesn't help out a lot if the camera's not catching the action when it moves by it. The trigger distance on this was also excellent. It captured pictures out to 100 feet. But again, if you've got animals walking between 20 and 40 feet or jogging by and it's missing it, that's a big flaw. Photo delay, you could do 5, 10, or 30 seconds, or 1, 5, 15, 30, or 60 minutes. Night flash actually worked out to 80 feet and you had good clarity out to 70 feet. You can set the video mode for 15 or 30 seconds and there is no plot watcher feature. As far as ease of setup, it was very easy to set up. It's actually really nice. It's got a lighted LCD on it. Really nice to deal with, easy to set up. Size and weight wise, this is still one of the bigger cameras we tested. It came in at 2.6 pounds overall. Security, you got the little plastic thing you can put a padlock through again. It has the moon, time, date, and temperature on every picture. It does have the blackout technology, so again, you cannot see any of the LEDs when they light up. Overall, we gave this camera a rating of 2.5. It had a higher than average price for the camera with the worst trigger speed. It didn't catch a lot of the pictures, and even though it took really clean and clear pictures, the trigger speed really needs to be faster. You can take the best pictures out there, but if you're not catching the animal when it's standing in front of the camera, it's no good to you. So by this time you're probably thinking, geez, did we test any cameras that we really liked? Well, here it is, the 8 megapixel Bushnell Trophy Cam. We got this camera for $200. The trigger speed on this was excellent. It just barely missed us at the 10-foot jogging mark, but it caught every other picture out to 100 feet. Again, this is one of those cameras that in our initial test, we were kind of trying to work out the bugs. I got at it 150 feet and this camera caught a picture of me. So it was triggering well past 100 feet. For the number of pictures it caught 13 out of 14 or 93%. Photo clarity on the Bushnell was excellent. You get good, clean, clear photos even on the move. The photo delay can be custom set by minutes and seconds. And the night flash can be seen really well out to 60 feet, and at 80 feet, you can tell it's a buck. You won't be able to count times, but you'll be able to tell there's a buck out there. Multi-photo is 1 to 3 pictures, and it's got good spacing in between the photos. You can set the video from 5 to 60 seconds. It has a plot watcher mode, and the ease of setup is pretty good. Security, again, you have the plastic hitch that you can put the padlock through. You're gonna have to buy an additional box for this as well. One of the smallest cameras we tested, coming in at 1 pound overall. One of the negatives we found about it is it only has the time and date on the pictures. It'd be really cool if it had the temperature and the moon phase too. We gave this camera a 4.5 rating. Extremely fast trigger speed. It caught photos well past 100 feet, so it has good distance on the trigger. Good quality photos, very customizable. Even though it's $30 higher than our average camera tested, we think $30 is well worth the extra performance and the quality that you get from this camera. Next, coming in at $200 is the 5 megapixel Moultrie No Glow C50 camera. Trigger speed on this was actually pretty good. Mostly centered images or first part of the frame. It caught us at 10 feet walking and it partially caught us at 10 feet running. It caught an average number of pictures, 11 out of 14 or 78%. However, in the moving photos, the subject was sometimes blurry. It did trigger out for a total distance of 60 feet. Just like the other Moultrie, it has a photo delay of 5, 15 or 30 seconds, or 1, 5, 10, 30 or 60 minutes. Night flash works out to 60 feet, but you're starting to lose detail at 80 feet. You can tell it's a buck, but it's starting to lose detail. On the multi-photo, just like the other Moultrie, you get the option of the standard or fast. On standard multi-photo, you get 2 to 3 photos. On the fast, you get 2 to 4 photos. Video can be set from 5, 15 or 30 seconds. Just like the other Moultrie, it has a very advanced plot watcher feature. With the hybrid mode, the 3 or 4 hours in the beginning of the day and the end of the day, or the 24-hour feature. And just like the other Moultrie, it has the same setup. It's a little bit difficult to get used to, but once you get used to it, you'll figure it out. This is actually the only one with a metal strap system, which I kind of like. It gives a little more secure feeling to the camera. It's a medium-sized camera. It came in at 2.2 pounds. It's a little bit larger, a little bit heavier. It does take C batteries. Security is minimal. You've got the little plastic side locking mechanism you can put a padlock through. It does have the time, date, temperature, moon phase, and the name of the camera on every picture. It is blackout technology again, so you won't see any of the flash, you won't see any of the glow from the LEDs. We gave this a 3.5 overall rating, a little bit better than average. Because of the number of pictures it caught, because of the good trigger speed, and the distance of the flash, it actually is a pretty nice camera. Okay, so now we're on to our final two, and probably the most highly anticipated cameras we've got. Starting off with the Cuddeback Attack. This is a 5 megapixel camera we purchased for $265. So how did the most highly touted, highly advertised camera do? Well, trigger speed. Cuddeback touts their cameras as having one of the fastest trigger speeds on the market. And guess what? It does. It lives up to that. The Cuddeback is only one of 2 cameras that caught all pictures at 10 feet. It caught the 10-foot walking and the 10-foot running, the 20-foot walking and the 20-foot running. Although the running pictures at 10 and 20 feet, the subject wasn't completely centered, it was off to the side a little bit, it's not bad. All the other pictures that the Cuddeback took, the subject was pretty much centered right in the middle of the picture. Trigger speed for the Cuddeback is undeniable, it is fast. Now on to the next set of criteria, the number of pictures caught. This is where we got a big surprise from the Cuddeback. Out of the 14 pictures the Cuddeback could have caught, it only caught 6 of them. Now, even though the trigger speed is extremely fast with the Cuddeback, we were having a hard time getting it to catch a picture past 30 feet. Now remember, we tested these at distances from 10 to 60 feet and then 80 and 100 feet. This camera would not catch a picture past 30 feet. So since it left so many pictures untaken, it got a horrible rating on the number of pictures it caught. 30 feet, that's only 10 yards. We were so shocked at these results that we thought we screwed it up. So what we did is we took the camera back out, we strapped it back to the tree, and we tried it again and we retested it. We did everything in our power to try and make this camera take a picture at 40 feet or 50 feet, and it just didn't work. We had the exact same results. As far as photo clarity goes, the color on the pictures were off a little bit. Now that might not be an issue because Cuddeback says you can go to their website and download some firmware and it'll adjust the color on the photos. And also, if the subject wasn't centered in the camera, when it caught us at 10 or 20 feet and we were a little bit off to the side, The photo was a little distorted. It looked kind of weird for some reason. The night flash seemed to work out to about 60 feet, but again, we couldn't get a picture past 30 feet. So we'd have Casey stand out at 60 feet and I'd walk into 30 feet until I took a picture. Multi-photo with this camera. There is no multi-photo with this Cuddeback. Instead of a multi-photo option, what you get is a video option. So you get one picture followed by 30 seconds worth of video. I don't necessarily like that feature. It does have a video option, but it's just on or off. It does have a plot watcher mode called guard duty. Ease of setup on this camera is actually pretty easy. If you're just looking to go set it up on a tree, ready to go, it's pretty simple to do. However, if you get into the menu feature of the camera and you want to set some specific menu items, erase pictures, download firmware, you better bring the direction booklet with you because you're going to get lost very quickly. The strap system that comes with this is called the Genius strap system. It's a single bracket that's strapped to the tree, and then the camera is actually dropped into the bracket utilizing the two bolts on the back. To me, this does not seem like the greatest way to secure the camera to the tree. It seems like a curious deer could come and knock it off its base. It seems like a bear could definitely take it off. You do have options. You can buy different mounting systems that actually screw into the tree that can pan or tilt, but you have to go to Cuddeback and order those separately. Also, there's no security with this. If you want security, you're gonna have to buy that additionally from Cuddeback. Overall, I'm not a big fan of this Genius mounting system. This is actually one of the bigger cameras as well that we tested, and it's kind of heavy. It came in at 2.4 pounds all ready to go, and it does take D batteries. As far as the pictures go, you get time and date stamp on every picture, and that's it. Now you can download additional software from Cuddeback that you then put your photos into, and it'll tell you the moon phase, the sunrise, the sunset, and it'll give you a lot more information about the pictures. However, I'd like to just have the information on the picture and not have to go to Cuddeback to download more software from them. So the Cuddeback, what did we finally give this for rating? It got a below average rating. We gave it a 2.5, simply because of the high price tag on it. $265 is $95 above our average camera tested price. Also, the lack of being able to catch a picture past 30 feet, that's just ridiculous. You can have the fastest trigger speed on the market and it won't matter. If that animal walks by at 45 feet and the camera doesn't trigger, then you're missing all sorts of pictures. For the amount that they're talking this camera up, there's no way this camera should be missing this many pictures, and there's no way it shouldn't be catching pictures at 40, 50, and 60 feet. Final one on the list. Another highly advertised, highly talked about camera, the Reconyx HC500. This is a 3.1 megapixel camera that we purchased for $450. So how did the most expensive camera on our list perform? Trigger speed, it's undeniable. The Reconyx is the fastest camera that we tested. This camera caught every single photo at 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet, all the way out to 80 feet. In one of our initial tests, we actually had my dog Camo running by the cameras to see if any of the cameras would catch it on film. The Reconyx was the only one that caught the dog running by the camera. Most of the pictures it caught were in the first half of the frame. So without a doubt, the Reconyx was the fastest triggering camera we tested. For the number of pictures it caught everything from 10 feet out to 80 feet, for 13 to 14 pictures for 93% of the pictures. Photo clarity. This is where it started to have a little bit of issues. Every single photo we took was blurry. And again, like the Cuddeback, we thought we might have screwed something up. So we took the camera back out and we tested it a second time. Same results. Every single picture was blurry. I then even called the manufacturer to see if they were aware of it and see if there was a fix. Hi Steve, my name is Patrick and I purchased one of the HC500 cameras from Cabela's.
Okay.
And it seems like every picture I'm taking, it's kind of blurry.
It's somewhat normal. One thing you could do is you can adjust the setting under night mode for fast shutter, and that actually makes a slight adjustment to the daytime as well.
Okay.
And now push one of the over buttons until it says fast shutter.
Fast shutter. Got it?
Bang.
Excellent.
Okay, and then you're good to go.
All right, I will give that a try. We tried their recommendations and took it out for a third test. And again, every single picture was blurry. Even though we had perfect light, we had a perfect area to do it in, we just could not get this camera to take a clear picture. I don't know why Reconyx used a 3 megapixel camera on this. When you start to zoom in on some of these photos, it gets so grainy, you lose all the detail, and you're never gonna be able to get an accurate picture or be able to score your animals appropriately. Did have pretty good trigger distance that worked out to 80 feet. The photo delay can be set from 0, 15, or 30 seconds, or 1, 3, or 5 minutes. The night flash worked good out to 50, 60 feet you were losing detail, 70, 80 feet you could barely tell something was there. As far as multi-photos goes, this is one of the most customizable cameras for multi-photos. You can set the multi-photo for 1, 2, 3, 5, or 10 pictures, and then you can actually set the quiet period or the delay between trigger times and between photos. However, even though it has a really good multi-photo feature, it has no video available on the camera. It does have a plot watcher feature for the camera. The ease of use on this camera is actually easy and difficult. It comes preset with a trail, feeder, or scrape mode. So basically when you flip the camera on and you set it to a feeder mode, it takes a preset number of pictures with preset intervals and preset delays. So that's the easy part. If you're going to set up on a trail, scrape, or feeder, you just switch it to that mode and it's all set, ready to go. You strap it to a tree and you're done. However, if you want to get into some of the more advanced features and start setting your own intervals on delay and time between pictures and number of pictures, it starts to get a little bit more complicated, a little more advanced, and it's going to take you a little bit to learn that. The strap system is actually this really thick bungee cord that goes through the camera housing itself. At first I didn't like it, but I'm starting to get to like it a little bit more and more. It comes in at 2 pounds, so it's a medium-sized camera. And the security on it's actually pretty good because you can replace this bungee system with a cable lock that goes through the housing of the camera. So if anybody's going to steal your camera, they're going to have to actually slice through the camera and cut it and break it to get it off the tree. It has time, date, moon, temperature, name, and picture number on every picture. And on the front here, even though this is an IR camera, it has this semi-covert housing over the flash. It actually works. It actually helps to dim the IR sensors quite a bit. So what did we give this for a final rating? We gave the Reconyx a 2.5. I really wanted to give it a 3 rating, at least get it up in the average. But with a $450 price tag, I just couldn't give it a 3. If you're going to charge $450 for a camera and you're going to be one of the most expensive trail cameras on the market, you should have the best of everything on that camera. This should have the fastest trigger speed, which it does. The photos should be impeccable. The quality should be excellent, which it does not. Every photo was blurry. The trigger distance on this camera should go well beyond the average trigger distance. It only went 20 feet beyond. It caught pictures out to 80 feet. It wouldn't catch them out at 100. It should be highly customizable, which it is. It should have at least a 6 megapixel camera. 3 megapixels just is not cutting it. Extremely easy to use. Even though this camera has a lot of great features, I'm just not willing to pay $450 for lackluster photos and only a 3 megapixel camera. I'm really excited we got to do this test because beyond the advertising dollars that are spent, beyond the celebrities that are promoting these cameras, we got to actually take these out in the field and test them the way we would use them. So if we're going out today to spend our hard-earned money, we're buying the Bushnell Trophy Cam. For the $200 price tag, which is only $30 above the average camera tested, you get excellent trigger speed, you get the majority of pictures caught on film, you get great clarity of pictures, pretty easy setup, lightweight. I'm glad now that I know that I don't have to go out and spend $500 to get the kind of trail camera that I need and I want. Hopefully we provide some good information for you and allowed you to make an informed decision on your next purchase. Check us out at www.grfreak.com or on Facebook under Gear Freak, and keep checking back on YouTube for our next video test. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.